Good morning, everyone. My name is Paco Ojeda, and this is Coffee and Headlines for Tuesday, April 14th. If this is the first time you're joining us, we get together every morning. We look through some of the latest headlines and we share them over a nice cup of coffee. Today, we have a special guest with us. So rather than going into our headlines or our hellos, we're going to start with him because today, it's all about despensas, which is the local term used to refer to a basic shopping package with all the basic nourishment things that you need. Our special guest today has been a Puerto Vallarta full time resident for 15 years, but his real job is check this out. Talk about a dream job. He lives here, but he is the director of corporate development for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. He is a community leader because he's chaired events here in town. He's been involved with a Pride Parade. He's been involved with Mardi Gras Carnival and several fundraising events for the local firemen. And I'd like to welcome him to our show. And his name is Gary Green. Gary, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, Paco, thank you so much. You are certainly trailblazing this type of technology. We've just started a session with some of our offices up north called Caffeine and Quarantine. They actually start at 10:30 as well. So you've already trailblazed that with your education and news and humor. So thank you for everything that you've done.
So, for starters, Gary, how are you doing? Before we dive into our topic today, how are you doing? How are you coping with isolation?
I am actually doing very well. I've been fortunate to work with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation for 35 years now. I believe I started when I was 6 or 7 years old, but that might be lying a little bit. But I've worked remotely for about the past 15 years, so fortunately, I'm kind of familiar with that aspect of the job. And obviously, it's getting frustrating. I really feel sorry for those businesses and the employees that have lost their jobs here. And hopefully, if people do maintain social distancing and listen to what the government's telling them, we'll get out of this sooner than later.
Now, you were telling me yesterday that you've been involved in the distribution of despensas. Tell me a little bit about how you came about this project.
Yeah, well, every colonia has either Facebook pages or WhatsApp groups. And here in the Colonia Emiliana Zapata, Benjamin Martinez Nunez, who is the Presidente de la Junta Vecinil, or the Neighborhood Business Association, he has a group of about 350 people on his WhatsApp page. And in just kind of glancing through some of the messages, there was an obvious need for dispensas, for masks, for other items. And by the time you scroll through the messages, you can really see who's out there, who's being very transparent. So I did a little research, and I connected with actually 3 different groups, all of which, again, are very, very transparent. That's important in the United States, and it's especially important right now here in Mexico at this time, because there are a lot of scams and other people taking opportunities that are not benefiting the community.
So you have identified groups that are trustworthy with which people can get involved and help feed the hungry. What groups are these that you're working with right now, Gary?
Exactly. Well, there's so many that are out there volunteering. Pam Thompson's group, for example, is doing an absolute amazing job, developing the masks, and I know that she's even requiring more volunteers to help with that project. There's also Bill Hevner and his partner. They're also involved with making masks to give to some of the first responders, those on the front line. I think the Vallarta Food Bank is doing an absolutely exceptional job. They're being very transparent. They're able to buy food in bulk as well as get donated items, and they're taking it out to local communities as well as distribution in the center. There's also a gentleman who owns a protein store His name is Marco Antonio, and the store is called Macho Alpha Protein House on Aguacate here in the Romantic Zone. And he's coordinating dispensas, and he's doing an absolutely excellent job that's identifying people that are really, truly in need. And the last few that I purchased, I coordinated with Mario. And I'll be able to send that information so you can include in your show notes. And if people are interested, if they do live in other areas, then I think the first thing to do is research to see if your colonias have a WhatsApp group or a Facebook page, and to be able to donate locally.
I'd like to put on the screen this chart that you shared with me with what a basic despensa has. Now, and I'd like you to share with people that are watching, how did you come up with this particular list of items?
Sure, I was a little frustrated at first because I knew the general meaning of despensa, but I really didn't know what that entails. And I do not know how to cook. I rarely go to the store. When I do go to the store, it's usually OXXO or Kiosco. I prefer to make reservations than to cook. So, some of these items were especially foreign for me. So I asked some of my friends, and I also posted in a few groups, and kind of came up with the list that you are sharing or about to share right now. And this is basically the staples that would help a family of four sustain for 1 or 2 weeks. And as you'll see, you can see that the cost is extremely low. It's about 400 pesos for 2 weeks. That includes a number of items. I prefer to purchase items at more local stores. I know they're hurting just as much as the restaurants and the hotels. So I've pretty much going to the local stores now to purchase the items. Obviously, the cost is going to be a little bit more than if you were to go to some of these bigger box stores or order these items wholesale.
Now, there might be some folks watching that are going to say, well, I want to help, but I feel a little concerned about doing the shopping myself because I don't want to go out, I don't want to be exposed to other people. Is there a way to collaborate with these organizations that you're mentioning such that people can make a monetary donation and have somebody take care of the shopping?
Yeah, I know the Vallarta Food Bank, as far as a monetary donation, they're putting that money to very good use because they're able to buy in bulk. I've had a couple people personally that are living up in the States now that sent me a few dollars, and I'm going to go and do the shopping and deliver it. I'm certainly not in that business, and I will be transparent and send copies of receipts to the people, show that the items were distributed. There's also some wholesalers that also supply, and I can't think of their names, and some pretty big companies, and they certainly know what dispensas are. I'll send that information to you so you could include in the show notes. But they'll deliver to your house. Everything will become prepackaged, or you could send to one of the outlets that are distributing the materials.
Gary Green, Puerto Vallarta is fortunate to have community leaders like you that are getting involved and helping make a difference in our own community. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Paco. It's been a pleasure.
I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
And that was Gary Green, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who are posting questions and comments, let's take a quick look. First of all, good morning, Eddie. Good morning, Georgia. Good morning, Gail. It's always great to see you. Kathleen, it's great to see you too. Kathy Howell, thank you so much for watching every morning. It's very much appreciated. Good morning to you too, Laura. Candace is mentioning that hospital gowns are also needed. Pam Thompson is mentioning all these other supplies that could be used. Gail, I will put up the shopping list in the show notes later on today, so you can take a look at them. And Astrid says, Gary, you're a great PR person for Puerto Vallarta. Of course he is, and I hope you're still watching the rest of the show. Gary Brown says, buenos dias. Good morning, Rita. Brian says, thank you. It's so nice to see all these wonderful new faces. Thank you very much. Rita mentions that there's a GoFundMe for the Vallarta Food Bank. I will research all these links and share them all with you. Um, Pam Thompson says she wants me to stand up to see if I'm in my underwear. Do you really want me to do that? Fine. I'm happy to please. I'm actually wearing, well, you cannot see them. I'm wearing my shorts that are very comfortable and that do not match what my shirt at all. So anyhow, what a great interview we got from Gary, and it's nice to see that there are places where we can help make a difference. So let's take a look at some headlines, if we could, just so that we're have some interesting things to keep in mind for today. Um, I am looking at. Oh, Gary, you're still on the phone. Let me hang up on you because I heard you moving things around. There you go. Okay. Let's see. Proceso tells us that Lopez Gatell has announced that our peak, the top of our curve will come in June, not in May as we had thought about. He says that the impact of the disease is going to start coming down between July and August, and it is not until October that we'll see a considerable decrease in cases. I think this is good to know because there have been increasing questions about whether we are going to be able to take away the restriction to go out anytime in the near future. No specific date has been published, although it's interesting to see that some hotels have started announcing reopening dates. In this particular case, AMR Resorts, who has secrets here in Puerto Vallarta, has announced that they are going to start opening hotels starting on May 15. Now, of course, this is regardless or independent of what the government has said in terms of when hotels can continue to start welcoming guests. But of course, we see that the hotel industry is starting to get a little antsy and they would like to be able to come back into business sometime soon. Um, this is an amusing story. Don't be like this couple in Australia that posted their vacation shots from last year, and they received a fine from the local police because they were violating lockdown. So they had to go into some kind of arbitration process with the police because these were not recent photographs, these were from last year. I also found it interesting today that there are beaches elsewhere in Mexico, in Oaxaca particularly, where crocodiles are taking over because people are gone. This comes from Mexico News Daily. Let's hope this does not happen to our beaches, although it's nice to see that the first creatures that got to this land are actually claiming their own rights to be able to enjoy it. And last but not least, I found this very, very funny video on YouTube created by performance artist Conchi Leon. She is from Yucatán, and she has put together um, a hammock workout that is truly, truly funny. The skit is in Spanish, but I think you will get a kick out of watching it. And as always, all these links I'm going to share with you in the show notes today. Um, and that's pretty much what we have for today. I really hope you've enjoyed today's show, and I hope you will come back tomorrow. As always, I am so grateful for all the forwards and all the shares that you do, all the recommendations that you make for people to tune in. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a very special musical treat for all of us, courtesy of a local group called La Boquita. So stay tuned. And that's basically it. It is Tuesday. The rest of the day is mine. And I hope the rest of your day is absolutely wonderful. I'm going to spend some time with my kitty cat. As always, I have to go shopping today, so I may bring my camera just to see what I find out and about. In the meantime, as always, please stay safe and please stay healthy. And I will see you again soon.